So my name is Jose Luis Santiago. I'm a volunteer organizer with Movimiento Cosecha, which is a national popular movement fighting for permanent protection, respect, and dignity for 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. So for all immigrants, essentially. And yeah, I just want to talk first about how Cosecha came to be. So Cosecha was initially just a group of people, right, that mostly immigrant rights, from the immigrant rights youth movement back in 2012 or before that, where we saw a lot of what we call the Dream movement, which is a young undocumented immigrants coming out of the shadows and for the first time being public about their identity as undocumented people. So we saw a lot of that, and through that struggle came DACA, which, does anyone know what DACA is? Yes, so it's the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that was signed under the Obama administration in 2012. So this is Homestead, Florida. Where am I? I'm right there. So the initial process happened back in 2013, right after another Dream Act happened in Congress, where people have been talking about this thing where trying to protect the undocumented youth of this country or in this country. So a group of people wanted to talk, about what was happening, why we weren't really winning as the immigrant or undocumented for the immigrant community. And they decided to call themselves the Honesty Team because they wanted to be honest about the situation and what was happening was what were we doing as a movement, what we could do better, work better, and you look at the challenges presenting at that moment. So there was a period of a year and a half where it wasn't only analyzing the situation, but it was also researching, looking back at the history, right, of movements, specifically nonviolent movements like the farm workers' struggle in the U.S., the India's independence movement, and yeah, there's a big history around movements, and they got a lot of research passed on to them. And also there were on the ground or like with communities, right, like Florida, California, and Massachusetts, where there are immigrants, and they talked to them and saw got insight or what were immigrants thinking at that moment of the immigrant rights movement and how it affected them and their participation in general. So after that year and a half of just doing that, right, of meeting I don't know how often. I wasn't, for clarification, I wasn't there at the moment. I joined later on after Cosecha was already launched. So 2015 comes, and in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe, there was an official launch of what Cosecha is today, official launch of it as a movement. And that's where the Honesty Team dismantled. And it became truly a decentralized, popular movement. So we believe in a lot of things, of course, and we'll talk about our principles and our strategy in a little bit. But we do believe in what we call the three activist rule. So as long as you follow our strategy or principles, you can, what we say, use our colors, I think is our saying, really popular saying now. So you can be a cosechero, a cosechera, you can do any action and you have our full support. So this is specifically 2016. So one of the first trainings in the country, right after the launch, because the launch was late in 2015. 2016 comes, a couple of people from Homestead were at the first launch and they wanted to bring in their own community. And it was, something not entirely new. It wasn't a totally new concept, but it was something new in terms of how we address immigration as an issue, right? So later on, a lot has happened. So this is a couple years later. This is our last retreat. And just we're going to talk about a couple of things, major actions we've had, mainly direct action, which is what we're kind of known for in social media if you follow us. But a lot has happened in terms of locally, internally, how we develop our not only our strategy but our way of living together, because we have houses and different concepts, right? And just everything being about experiments and learning how to do this, and trying to talk to people that are experiencing different things. Right now we are a network of volunteer organizers. We get a stipend of $200 per month. Right now we're I forget the exact number. I think the last count I have is 33 volunteer organizers in the country, and we are in different places. So in California, in Texas, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Michigan, Florida, of course. And yeah, those are the ones on top of my head. But definitely, we're all over social media. And yeah, so I think that's it for how we came to be. Definitely, I think we're learning every day how to not only live in community, how to work together, and how to come up with tactics that really resonate with our strategy, and just doing some crazy actions, some may say. But yeah, and now I'll pass it on to Juan Carlos. He'll talk more around what our values are and how we put those in practice. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to delve into who really is Cosecha and what we really believe in, the strategies and tactics that we like to teach people, especially the people that want to come in and work alongside with us a lot more. And also we said that we have a lot of principles, a lot of tactics and strategies. Once we all sat down, you all have a copy of our principles. So we're just going to go and just talk about them a little bit more. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and talk about our mission statement, what Cosecha and overall, so we don't forget exactly why it started and why we're doing all these tactics. So we have this one very specific sentence that we like to say all the time. So what Cosecha is dedicated to is, with the help of a 7-day strike, we believe that we will win dignity, respect, and permanent protection for all 11 undocumented immigrants. And as we delve more into these principles and these strategies that we have, it'll become clear to you more and more why we need these 3 exact things and why they're listed exactly. We actually have a quick game. I don't know how can that work with the live stream.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can just folks can get in a line, or we can clear this space, and folks can get kind of in a line. And I'm really going to be a moderator. Yeah. So let me set them up. So yeah, we could just let's see how we can do it. Yeah, we would like to have a straight line right here of folks.
You probably run a diagonal. Let's me do it.
Oh,
Here. Yeah, why not diagonal?
Yeah. All right. So the concept of this game, I don't know if you ever played some people call it the privilege game, where someone says a statement, and if that statement is true to you, you step forward. We don't have that much space, so if that statement like pertains to you, you just do a little step forward. Usually you do a big step forward, but we're limited on space. So I'm gonna join y'all, and then Emily can kind of go ahead and ask.
Alright. Let's start off. If you were born in this country, take one step forward. If you have your residency or are a permanent citizen here, take one step forward. If you are of indigenous background, take a step backwards. If you don't live in the fear, if you live in the fear of your family being separated by the immigration system, take a step backwards. If you don't have the same access to things like healthcare, education, driver's license, any sort of like formal things that basic citizens have, take a step backwards. Great. So this is what it's like being an undocumented migrant in the United States. I don't know if y'all want to toss in some other questions.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. As you can see, we're a little bit more behind, especially when we think of basic human dignity. What do we think of? We think of someone that can have access to health, have access to freedom, and have access to happiness. Our health is compromised by undocumented immigrants not being able to get, like Emily said, a formal health system. Freedom, we are unable to move around as freely as we can out of fear of deportation. In Homestead, you can start sitting down. Yeah. In Homestead alone, we get text messages every day talking about ICE is on this street, ICE is on that street. So we have to limit like our mobility, basically. So, and also your strength. If there's sometimes where like the police is really bad, there's been either raids around a certain neighborhood. People don't like to go outside. They don't like to go do out and about. We have seen studies that show that when there are raids in neighborhoods, school attendance in children actually drops for that week, out of the parents having fear that their children might be separated, which comes into the separation of families, which is what Emily was saying a lot, especially now with the Where Are the Children's campaign, with all these horror stories of like what's been happening for so long with the children just coming up. Respect, a lot of times respect isn't given to immigrants. One instance is being called animals. I don't think who here would call anyone that they respect an animal or anything else. No, so that in itself is completely like taken off. Permanent protection, we are giving these temporary protective services like TPS, that's what it technically means, and DACA. These things are only temporary, and at any moment they can be taken away, which we have seen constantly with this administration going on. So how can we fight this, and how does Cosecha like formalize these beliefs if we're decentralized? Because if we're decentralized, we don't really have like a board of director and here. It's more like Cosecha said, if you believe in the principles, you can go ahead and start your own circle. So let's dive in. So we have the 14 principles. There's 14 of them, but I'm gonna try to break them down really easily so they're not like too overbearing, because these are principles that are usually taught throughout the day. But one of them is monkey see, monkey do. As in, people will look at us. Just like any other people fighting for justice, we are looked on a lot more closely than others, which means we lead by inspiration. And we also don't lead by commanding. We don't like to command people like, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, we lead by example. Like, we don't want to, have someone like screaming at other people to push a block. We all want to push it together. We all want this to move together, is basically what it's saying. We're all a family. We welcome everyone. sexual orientation, ethnicities, race, gender identities, sexual orientation, religious or spiritual beliefs. Everybody is welcome because we are all in this together. We know the wisdom of our movement comes from the people that are most silenced, the people who were the most in the back of that line. So there's no cover for this party. You don't need to like fill in a specific like form, or you don't need to like have us like know someone who knows someone who knows someone. For Cosecha, as long as you follow these principles and you have 3 people, you have a circle, and that means that you have the full-on support of all the other circles in Cosecha. We don't dance with political parties. So one thing that the Honesty team has delved into is that our cases specifically with the immigrant community, we have been lied to a lot by political parties. Republicans, obviously, they lie to us up front, but sometimes also we've seen Democrats completely breaking their promises. What we say is like they want our phone numbers for their elections, but never call us after they're elected. Like they want us always to canvass for them, but after that, it's just like, well, I'm right here. Our work is on the streets. It's with the people. We have this thing called movement ecology that we believe in. This doesn't really necessarily mean that we think like other organizations doing get out to vote campaigns or lobbying is bad. It's just for Cosecha ourselves, we believe that that's not our thing. Like our work is with the people. Our work is at the local level. So these are 2 of our biggest weapons, one of our weapons and one of our shields. Non-cooperation is our weapon. We know our power is rooted in cooperating in this country. Our power, it means that we feed into our labor going to be exploited. We know that our labor is important. So without our working hands, there's no labor. And we won't cooperate until, like, we want to make sure people don't cooperate until they know how valuable that labor actually is. And our shield is nonviolence. We're a nonviolent movement. This is mainly because it keeps our movement alive, and it also helps perpetrate. Who's the actual violent person here, which is the state. It's not the people. It's not someone who is working at McDonald's. It's not someone who is working on the fields. It is the person that is exploiting that labor. The soil of our harvested respect and reciprocity. We believe that people have the best intentions when they come into our circles. As in reciprocity, does anybody know what reciprocity is? Or have an idea of how reciprocity works? So yeah, it's basically doing something or giving something with good intentions and knowing that those good intentions will eventually spread out. For instance, I do something for Jose Luis, knowing Jose Luis will have really good intentions, and then Jose Luis will reciprocate those good intentions onto our other fellow members of our community. And that person can also be me in that reciprocity, who knows, but we know that the best intentions come. Our seeds come from the tree of sacrifice, as in we honor the hard work of all the people who bring their gifts to this movement, whether it be through organizing or just being part of the labor force. We believe that all this like labor that comes into the movement, it's for the benefit of all our people. Like everything that comes in is rooted in sacrifice, and it is like brought over by people like this woman who give their labor, and that's very important to us. We also have one thing, which is all we need is already in our community. A lot of people always ask, how does Cosecha pay their volunteer organizers? How do y'all have a house? How do y'all do these actions if you don't go into these big grants? Because Cosecha does not have big grant money. We try to stray away from it because that usually ends up people with big money telling us, you cannot do this because we're giving you so much money. And we don't want to be limited in that source. So what we believe is that our community is what holds us up. For instance, giving us water, giving us money. We have a monthly sustainer where people like give $5 a month, and that usually goes into the work that we do. We have people donating spaces, furniture for our movement houses, which we have one in Texas and Boston. You can wear our colors as long as you follow these principles. Whoever follows these principles, you can use the Cosecha flag if someone wants to use it in the organization. You're more than welcome to. Like we said, just follow them and we should be good. One harvest, many fruits. There are thousands of ways how to be part of the Cosecha strategy. You don't have to be someone who, I didn't go to organizing school. I didn't go into communications, I didn't go into this. You just have to go in and know that your fruits, whatever you bring to the community and to this organization, is ultimately going for something good, and it's ultimately as an integral part of it, as someone who's been in the movement for 20 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. The swarm needs all its bees. This means that this movement is going to take all of us. It's going to take all our strength. It's going to take all of our power. We also have this thing like we swarm to the need. So wherever the need is there, Cosecha, we will go ahead and, as part of our principles, we have to go and help because that's what we believe in. And lastly, and is justice somewhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Our movement mission is to be active in other movements for racial, gender, and economic equality. Like we said, we're not in a vacuum. There are different types of fights. There's fights for gender equality. There's fights for Black Lives Matter movement. There's fights for different countries who have been exploited by the U.S. That need our help. So these are all our principles, and it's what kind of brings in the Cosecha DNA into play. And in some of these principles, you have seen us talk about like non-cooperation and non-violence. That goes more into the strategy of what is Cosecha. And for that, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into it. And for that, Emily's going to go ahead and talk to us about non-cooperation and just how Cosecha believes the strike is going to help us and how we want to achieve that.
Thank you, Ponce. So like Ponce was saying, we are a nonviolent movement, and we believe that the way that we can gain leverage in this fight for permanent protection, dignity, and respect is through a 7-day general boycott. And we believe that we can do so through mobilizing an active base, which is going to include millions of people in our community, being 11 million of us. And our work really does draw from and honor the tactical work and legacy of the farm workers movement and everything to the Black radical tradition. Economic non-cooperation and civil disobedience being our main two tactics that we use to gain this sort of leverage. And we believe that harnessing the power that our community already has as workers and consumers, the United States will finally see and start changing the narrative that we have from us being wanted here to us being a really big necessity and a vital part of this country sustaining itself. And so this basically translates to a 7-day massive strike, the largest one that this country will ever see. And it's part of our 4-phase strategy. And our 4-phase strategy starts off with building support. So doing trainings like these, going into our community, activating a really solid base. Right now we have about 1,000 solid members who are really active within Cosecha and our communities that we consider a part of these 3,000 people we want to have trained. And we also have circles. For example, Jose Luis, Ponce, and I can be considered a circle. So we're Broward Circle, Haciel as well. He's part of our Broward Circle. We have kind of weekly meetings, and we do events, and it's all part of phase 1, which we're a part of, which we're in right now, which is building support. So after we activate enough people, enough trainers, and enough villages, we move into political intervention. So we understand that the political system, how it's structured, is not meant for people of color, working class folks, disabled folks, etc., any marginalized group of individuals, which includes the undocumented community. So we aren't here to negotiate with politicians. We're not here to talk to politicians, to sit down, shake their hands, because like Ponce was saying, one of the principles was we don't dance with political parties, because the reality is they don't work for us, and they have in the past 20 years. Within the past 20 years, regardless of the amount of meetings and work that we've tried to do within the political system, the only thing that we've gotten out of it is DACA and TPS, which TPS, obviously being cancelled and DACA constantly being threatened, but at the end of the day, they're both only temporary solutions. They're not permanent, which is what we're working for. So basically, through political intervention, we're going to create an ultimatum for politicians to choose between our community and their party. This shifts us into phase number 3, which is economic non-cooperation. So essentially another massive boycott. And once we have 100,000 pledges for the strike and 300,000 individuals in this country boycotting, we shift into our 7-day massive strike. So essentially this is our main goal. We're here to organize the largest strike this country's ever seen. And through the leverage that we're going to get through this by not going to school, not shopping at big corporations, just relying on the resources that our community has and sustains this country with. And also picketing at workplaces, we are going to see a huge shift within the narrative that's being spoken about us. People are really going to see that we are a vital part of this country and sustainability. So to kind of conceptualize this, I wanted to shift our group over there, if we can, to do a little pyramid game. Yeah. Just a question. So I can go. Do you have a question? I have. Can I see them? I'm gonna go.
Also, if you have any questions, we're doing the questions at the end. So we need something to write with. We have some pens in the front. And also you can write it back on the sheet.
Yeah.
Alright, so everyone just grab a pen. And then we can all just surround this triangle that we see right here.
Damn, y'all move fast. I wasn't prepared. Alright.
Who else is missing a pen? Alright, it's a shot. Alright, and then here, everyone's gonna get 3 speakers. And we're gonna teach y'all what, show y'all what to write on each of these little individual papers. And they're gonna show how one of our strategies is going to work. This exercise is very common, so y'all might have done it a couple times already. But yeah,
Who doesn't have to? Great. So here we have our lovely pyramid. Yeah. So we can start off with the first here. So this pyramid is supposed to represent our society. The bottom up. So the top of the pyramid, we're going to start off, and you guys are going to write down each section when we kind of divide this triad. And the first one, I want you all to envision and write down who in this country harnesses the most power. Like what groups have the most resources, what groups have the most societal advantages, political power, economic privileges, so forth.
Would you say here, like in Miami?
The United States.
The United States, yeah.
United States.
Yeah, you can write more than one if you want on your little paper.
Yeah.
And then when
So
you're
we're supposed to write each of the, I don't each of the papers or just,
For the first one, for the first tier, we're just gonna write it on one piece of paper.
okay,
Yeah, each paper is gonna represent each tier.
okay.
and then once you're done, you can go ahead and put it on the top part of your paper. And there's no wrong or right answers. It's whoever you believe has the most power, most wealth, and most advantage in the United States.
Thank you.
And then
Did everyone put it down? Alright, most stuff in here. I should read them out loud.
Alright. Some people put corporations, property owners, and bankers.
The rich, the billionaire class, large landowners, corporations.
Banks, lobbyists, capital, police, white people, white passing the 1%, men, CEOs.
So that's our first tier.
So that's who we believe have all of the power and all of basically how our society, where our society sees the power.
So for the second tier, we're gonna write down on one piece of paper the institutions that upkeep and kind of sustain the first one, the first one. Is that it? Okay.
Alright, so who did y'all think the institutions were that keep these people in the power? So we have corporations again, I think that says media, and then we have politicians, lawyers, police, business unions. We have the government, institutionalized racism and white supremacy. Corporate media, salespeople, managers.
nonprofit industrial complex, schools/higher educational institutions, police/criminal justice institutions, don't know what to say, corporations, consumerist entities which reinforce capitalism, white middle class, banks, regulatory agencies.
Awesome.
And then for our very last and our final, notice the difference between the sizes, it's the biggest one. On the last paper, on the last one, we're gonna write who we believe sustains, truly, not ones that protect and defend, but rather sustain and allow this to operate.
So one example is like a school. Who makes the school run? Like without, like who do we need to make a school run? Or who do we need to make police stations run? Who do we need to make banks run? Who do we need to make, like all these institutions I wrote down, who needs to be in there to run this? For instance, you need teachers for schools.
I guess the most relevant example for the same members, what does capitalism mean for it to function? Workers, working class, workers.
And consumers.
Exactly, consumers.
Is everybody done? So we have consumers, the obedient working class men, middle class and working class people of color, blue collar workers, immigrants, teachers, workers again.
We have workers, students, consumers, us, regular people, who either don't know how, I'm just gonna say how the system works or how to change it. And then the working class slash,
The professional class, those who support the professionals. Okay. Do you want to go into the question?
so now seeing how the power of this triangle flows, who has the most power according to our pyramid? Which triad?
Working class people.
Why?
Because they don't cooperate, nothing can function, that's us.
But you put the most powerful people up there. So it's because you view it that way. Or is that how society is?
Individually, the most powerful people are up here. Collectively, the most powerful people are down there.
Collectively?
Yeah, there is no top if this is.
So in what way? So can I?
So I guess relating back to our four-phase strategy, who has the most power if we were to invert this pyramid? If we were to flip it, and the bottom triad was in the bottom.
I'm confused.
Who has the most power if we were to flip it?
If you were to flip it.
If you were to flip it,
People.
like, what do you mean by flipping?
Like change the power structure.
If I see the pyramid like this, obviously I see that at the top.
Yeah.
Look at it like this.
Yeah. So if you look at it like that, who truly has the power? So the base, and especially if you look at it this way, the base, it kind of holds up those institutions, right? And then those institutions hold up that little tiny piece. If we look at it this way, what can we do to kind of like make it tumble down?
Stop working.
Why?
Because that indicates, that's a collective power that they have to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. but and also like if you cut off this piece of tape and you stop feeding that, now how would you see this? Who really has the power now? If we stop feeding those institutions,
If they don't have education.
yeah, they don't have anything to support, so that tier falls down, and now we're up. Wouldn't that be a great opportunity to start saying, hey, we're on equal ground now. This is what I need. So that's how we see non-cooperation working.
If migrant laborers, if day laborers were out in Immokalee picking tomatoes, right? And there wasn't deportation forces who raid their communities, right? And there wasn't anybody picking this and harvesting and cosechando, giving it back to us. Walmart's not going to sustain itself. Publix isn't going to sustain itself. Chipotle, people who depend on our work, on our community's work, they're just going to crumble. So yeah.
Yeah. So do we have any questions in regards to non-cooperation?
Or the comments.
Comments, concerns?
Are there any groups in, like you mentioned Immokalee, like CIW? Is there anyone who's already signed up for this?
Yeah, Immokalee has worked very closely with us. They have helped us out in New York, especially whenever we want to do any actions. And they've also, as a collective, have said that they agree with our tactics, and they are ready. Whenever we have our people ready, then they can go ahead and start running up this. Yeah. So it's that, like we said, that reciprocity is there again. So yeah, and we've helped CIW with some of their actions too. They're very interested because their power structure is kind of similar to this in what they view. And we have the boycott Wendy's, boycott Publix, and even what's one example that we've seen rise up in the United States recently, and it has to do with teachers. Teachers found the power of boycott. They found that if they tear down that power supply to that institution, which is schools, then they're on equal foot with the school systems and the budget. So yeah. Any other comments? Now we can start. Alrighty. So now we're just gonna go into our next segment, which is a panel. It's very. Oh yeah. We have these three slides right here. So Emily's going to come in a bit. So, it's great that we showed you this. And it's great that we can teach you 20 million times what our principles are, what our tactics are. But don't you just wish you could see in action? Kind of see how we have done this in the past. Well, Emily, Jose Luis, and I are going to go ahead and speak about certain actions that Cosecha has done, how we have applied our tactics, and what impact they have done. So we're gonna start chronologically from the one that has happened most in the past to more recent actions, including actions that are currently going on right now. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start with Jose Luis, who was part of the first undocumented direct action under the Trump era in Texas. So I'll give the floor to Jose Luis. He'll go ahead and say something about the action, and then we're gonna go on, and then at the end we'll receive your questions.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Carlos. Who liked the game or the little exercise? Thank you for that as well. So I'm back again, and as you can see in the pictures, those are some action pictures. Definitely on social media you can find more. And just I guess before I begin with that specific action, just a little bit more context. Like this isn't like these actions that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 3 specific actions. They're not the only ones that we've done. Definitely, there's a lot more. And at this specific time, I wasn't yet a full-time volunteer organizer. So this is like my first, really grasp of what direct action really what it implicates, and the level of risk, right? Being an undocumented person and risking arrest, specifically in Texas, because Texas is pretty rough with their criminal justice system. So as you can read in the title, this was the first undocumented led direct action under the Trump administration. I think I forgot to add that. Definitely, we saw that the immigrant community was being attacked directly. Who here remembers SB4? Has anyone, raise your hands if you heard of SB4? If you haven't heard of SB4, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's definitely been out there in the news. Lately, things pop up suddenly, and there's another crisis happening. But definitely this, at the moment, this is July 26, 2017, I believe, right? And this was right before the voting happened for SB4. And it was an opportunity. It was a threat first and foremost, and we took it as an opportunity to really take the battle, or fight in the battleground, which is Texas. And during that time, Texas was also leading. At least the AG, the Attorney General, was leading in the demand or the lawsuit to actually take out DACA, which is, as I mentioned previously, the deferred action that actually protected me, along with around 800,000 undocumented young people, from deportation, right? So they can deport us. They can still detain us, but they can deport us as long as we have that valid work permit. So I decided to be one of the 4. As you can see in the picture, those are the 4 DACA recipients. Undocumented people, because DACA doesn't give you status, but protects you from deportation only. And this happened. The way it looked, the day of action, we took over the Capitol. Right in front of the Capitol, the intersection, we blocked it for, at that moment it seemed pretty quick, but for at least a couple of minutes, until the cops arrived. And there, they were full on gear, because we were pretty public around, wanting to do something really escalated, something really direct, somewhat confrontational, but really non-violent. And we wanted to really follow that principle and the discipline. So all of this, what you expect is not an action that happened out of nowhere or like without preparation. It took weeks of preparation. It took discussion around are you aware of the risk you're taking, and I was definitely aware of the risk I was taking. And another fun fact is my sister is the one on my right in the picture. So to your left, that's my sister. And she was definitely already a volunteer organizer with Cosecha. We wanted to really make it visible to the community or to the public in general what was happening to the immigrant community, not only in Texas, but like overall in this country, how we're not being respected, we're not treated with dignity, and how this is basically the beginning of the threat we have been seeing constantly, right? How not only this administration, but with this administration, just how the rhetoric, the anti-immigrant rhetoric, and the xenophobia and the racism is really out there, and how it's affecting us in general. So definitely, this is my first time getting arrested in any action, and the first time in any jail overall. So definitely, it was an impactful action. action. And I think the most memorable part was just seeing everyone sitting on as a V shape in the intersection, and just the cops being they have like all modes of transportation in Texas. There were a couple of horses, there was a couple of bikes, cars, of course, and some were on foot because of the Capitol right there. So definitely, we saw horses pushing people, even stepping on someone's toe, and just on the live stream you can see the cops just like picking up the banner and just going away with it, or trying to hide it from us, and confiscating it overall. But yeah, definitely after that we got a lot of attention, and we got a lot of visibility, which was general goal, right? And people took action right after in their own communities. We have at that point we had I think a little bit over 30 circles that wanted to do similar actions, just calling out to the public and creating this dilemma: are you with the immigrant community? If you are, then you should voice it, and you should stand with the undocumented people. So there's another picture that I forgot to post, but overall it was total of 13 or 15 arrestees, and these are the 4 that are directly affected by what's happening there. We're all undocumented at the moment. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share for the specific action. So, thank you.
And then we'll start moving on to what happened on September 5th. Does anyone know what happened on September 5th? Everyone's favorite Attorney General made a certain announcement. Does anybody know? Well, on September 5th, Jeff Sessions went on TV and officially announced the cancellation of DACA, basically. So in that moment, right away, it creates a crisis because DACA has 800,000 beneficiaries, and most of them are workers who already have established jobs. A lot of them are professional workers, a lot of them are blue collar, a lot of them are farm workers as well. So in that moment, it creates a crisis. And during that, Cosecha actually led an action in front of Trump Tower that kind of expressed just how big this was. I think there was around 11 people at first to get arrested, I think. The number 11 symbolizes the 11 million. A lot of Cosechas, what we try to do with our actions is make it as symbolic as we can. We think strategic is important, but also prophetic actions that show a story, that show emotions, is another way to get it to the public. Because we are humans, we do feel emotions, we do want to see why these people are so angry. It's not just about like loving, or not about like making sure you get the right action at the right time. It's also about like connecting. So September 5th was a very high intense. I was part of it. We got arrested in front of Trump Tower. We were held for like 6 hours, but it gave a message, an initial message of what is going to happen now that this DACA got rescinded, is that the immigrant youth isn't going down silent. For a lot of people, it was a moment when a lot of immigrant youth was like, wow, I have to do something. Wow, this is like, okay, now it's gotten real. Even though we would have preferred them to come a little sooner to join us, but nonetheless, we're very happy that they have. So that was one way of like it being activated. So what Cosecha saw was that there was this passion for the DREAM Act that was going on that we couldn't ignore. Because Cosecha does focus on a variety of like things that affect the immigrant community, but specifically for immigrant youth, there hasn't really been a team or a sector that really focuses on that. So they created what was called the SEED Project. The SEED Project focused on helping out the fight for the DREAM Act. Y'all could have heard of the DREAM Act. It's introduced in 2001. The first one just says if you are immigrant youth who came here at a very young age, is enrolled in college, or is planning to enroll in the military, you have a pathway to citizenship. Obviously, it's changed a little but a lot of the Dream Acts that were being introduced were similar to DACA. So if you apply for DACA, you probably will apply for the Dream Act, and a few other thousands more will be added on. So the SEED project, that was their main goal, is to help out that fight alongside other orgs like United We Dream and other youth-led organizations that were doing a lot of stuff. So this all started accelerating around December, because in December the Congress began debating this spending bill. And a lot of groups were calling for the Clean Dream Act to be attached to this spending bill. And a Dream Act that isn't just a Dream Act, it's also a Dream Act that is clean, which means our community will not be jeopardized because of it. Because sometimes they like to add things on bills, like the wall, or increasing ICE, which we have seen that ICE isn't really the most effective agency, nor is it the most merciful agency. But yeah, this fight began escalating. In the SEED project, what we saw was that there was a lot of great job being done. A lot of people were lobbying for Congress people, but we were seeing that, okay, that's good, but they're basically turning a blind eye. So we did something called what's now called the Dream 7. Back then, we just called it a jail strike. So this was organized a lot of people were like, wow, that must have taken you a month to organize. It literally was organized in 4 days. In 4 days, we had to go call everybody we know, hey, listen, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then Barbara, Hector, myself, Belen, Gata, Lee, Erica, and then one other person, which is an ally, which is Jeff. We all agreed that we were going to get arrested. That was going to be the first part of the action, but the real part of the action, once we were in jail, a lot of the times what you do is you give your name, they stamp you, they book you, they give you a court date, bye. You just go into the precinct. Our tactic, we wanted to replicate what was done in the civil rights era, which they, when they would get arrested, the civil rights leaders would not pay their bond until their demands were heard. So we were thinking that if we go to jail and we just don't give our names or any of our birthday, how long will they keep us there? So that's exactly what we did. We didn't give our names. We didn't give our birthdays. We didn't give any information on ourselves. We were literally labeled, all the men were labeled John Does, and all the women were labeled Jane Does. And that caused, you would think the criminal justice system in the United States, especially in DC, would be adequate, but they literally messed us all up to the point where one of us had to be released one day, but they couldn't because they thought it was the other person. So there was a mumble up, and even the judge looks at us and he's like, "Wait, what number are you?" And out of everything, the judge, the person that's supposed to do your sentence, asking you what's your prison number, and not having it on record and everything it's kind of a little shaky. I don't know. We were in jail for 6 days, almost a full week. And to top it off, since we're little warriors, we decided to do a hunger strike too. So we were in jail, hungry, and every time they would ask us for our name, we would say, I will not give my name until Congress passes as a Clean Dream Act. The reason we wanted to do that is a form of non-cooperating. We don't want to cooperate with you unless you assure us we get what we want. Another form of non-cooperation is not eating as well. You're putting someone's health on risk and they're in your hands. We wanted to polarize people. The symbolism behind these actions, we wanted to polarize. We wanted people to not see this Dream Act fight as something that young kids are pouting about, but it's something that's going to affect not only the economy, but people around everyone. Teachers are DACA students. Bus drivers are DACA students. DACA recipients. Farmers are DACA recipients. Fast food workers are DACA recipients. All these people, what would happen if you all of a sudden take their work from their way? That's definitely not going to be good for your economy, nor is it going to be good for everyone else. So we wanted to show that this issue was very serious. And in a way we succeeded because, I don't know if y'all remember, but a few weeks later, Congress completely shut down the government because the Clean Dream Act was not in the spending bill. There was so much pressure for a Clean Dream Act to be there that they actually shut down the government, unfortunately, for 2 days because the Democrats came in. Yeah, so a lot of people were disappointed with that. But in all, this action was really stressful. We would tell people, like, the prisoners would be there, they would ask us, why are you here? Like, did you kill someone? Or like, because we were just some young kids, and we, like, you know. And we were like, no, we're just protesting. They're like, oh really? They're gonna release you in a bit? They're like, no, we're not giving our names, you're gonna stay here. And they would just be like, wow, you're really brave, but you're so stupid. Like, who would want to be in jail? There was people, but our community received us very well. They drew pictures of us. They made vigils. It was really weird because the vigils looked like we were dead when we came out of jail. And there was just like little candles with our faces, and I was like, wow. So a lot of that energy was there, and all these people were activated. They're like, we need to do something. We need to continue this push forward for the Clean Dream Act, or push forward so people can realize that this is an issue that shouldn't be in the back burner. So as time moved on, we were thinking of ways to use that energy. And then that's it for my section. But if you're wondering where that energy went to, I think Emily can explain a little bit more. And you're gonna talk about. Emily's gonna talk about a walk to stay home, which was also by the Seed Project. Seed Project is Cosecha. It is a branch of Cosecha, so it's still that. So, go ahead.
So the Seed Project, the Walk to Stay Home. So the Seed Project decided to do a Walk to Stay Home, the journey, what's it called? The Journey of Hope. And it was a 250-mile walk, starting in New York City and ending in Washington, D.C. It was over the course of 2 weeks for 15 days we were walking, basically around 20 miles a day, at least 20 miles a day, sometimes we get to early 30s. And we would walk every single day, and our intention was essentially to raise awareness around what was happening on DACA, and the necessity of keeping the program still around, but obviously shifting it back into the greater conversation of permanent protection, dignity, respect for all 11 million. So essentially, one of the main things that was part of this walk was that there were 11 full-time walkers who were either undocumented or DACA recipients. So we had a really good friend of mine, Heidi, who was undocumented walking. We had Maria Fernanda, who was a mother from California. We had people fly out from all around the country, all these really brave undocumented youths willing to put their physical bodies on the line, their health on the line, their emotional well-being on the line, to walk 250 miles across this interstate journey to DC. And the 11 walkers represented the 11 million undocumented migrants who are in the United States. And the physical journey, I don't want to use the word mimic, but I guess was symbolic of the physical journey that our ancestors and our parents and our grandparents have trekked onto, migrating from our country, specifically migrating across borders, across nations, across all these physical land barriers and intense ass shit, just crazy, to get to the United States, to migrate here, to physically migrate here, not just being born here and not getting a plane ticket and flying over here. So that's another symbolic aspect of the walk. And I guess something that really was brought to life by the walk was one of our principles, which was all that we need is within our community, all the resources that we need are within our community. We did not rely on anybody or anything else besides our community. I think a lot on our migrant community. We stayed in churches. That's mainly our base, or the spaces that were donated to us. We would sleep in sleeping bags. There'd be a group of 11 walkers who were full-time, plus people like myself who walked, but also were full-time volunteer organizers. Once they joined us towards the end of the walk, he was working on national digital the rest of the time, back here in Florida. And we generally had about 20 to 30 people who would join. Hasiel! Oh my God, Hasiel was on the walk. Hasiel joined us on the walk for a couple of days. And it was incredible to see our community join together, whether physically like walking the miles with us, walking the distance with us, donating space, donating food, donating shelters, or just like virtually joining us. We had a really, really, really big platform online of youth who started to sign up for Cosecha. Thanks to like our digital team doing amazing like targeting and like getting people all on board with Cosecha. And I guess one really big highlight for me was an action we did outside of Liberty Bell. And we had all 11 million walkers pull up in front of the bell with like photos of family members and the reason, or individuals who were their main reason as to why they were walking the 250 miles. So people brought pictures from their parents and their brothers and their cousins and their grandparents, and each one of them who felt comfortable enough to speak, since there was a really big media presence in there, so it was a bit intense, spoke outside of Liberty Bell, essentially saying how undocumented people in this country don't have liberties. They don't have access to travel, they don't have access to basic things that us as citizens or us as residents have in this country and that we take for granted on a regular basis. So they stepped up, they spoke. It was a really, really emotionally intense and kind of draining day. But yeah, and then another highlight would definitely be the amount of outpour that we had from our community who wasn't involved or had never heard of Cosecha. So we would, if we were gonna like stop and for anything, we would maybe go to like POC, like Latino businesses. And I remember being like handed like 50 tortas, which are like Mexican like sandwiches, like from the taqueria, and like being like, oh, like y'all are fighting for our community, that's what's up, like take this food, like y'all gotta eat, like. And even having, I remember we stopped at McDonald's one day to get something to drink, and the cashier, I was telling him about the walk, and he handed me $40. He was like, this is for y'all, like your food's on me. He was like, y'all are doing this for our community, like. I'm like, nah, like, that's all that. But yeah, and finally when we made it to DC, we, similarly to what Jose Luis did in Texas, we were outside of the Capitol and Capitol and First, and 4 of the 11 walkers, part of our A team, our arrestable team, had a civil disobedience, and they were all documented, they were all DUC recipients, and they placed themselves outside of the intersection, so like 2 on here, 2 on here, 2 on here, and blocked that intersection on Capitol and First, right where the Supreme Court is. And we held the space for it was a minute, it was about 20 minutes long. Huge police force immediately. The minute we got on scene, the minute we rolled out, like, mad feds pulled up. But unsurprisingly so, a bunch of brown people in DC, like, just demanding dignity, respect, permanent protection, you know. But, and then eventually they were arrested and they were just detained for the rest of the day, and we bonded them out. But yeah, so that was like our civil disobedience aspect. That was a joke and done by the 3.
So yeah, those were some of the actions that we've personally been part of. There's many that Cosecha have done. The Buffalo 25, when workforce of 25 people were raided. They were also doing vigils for the indigenous Guatemalan woman who was murdered, Claudia. As well as right now, currently, this walk, funny enough, has inspired other walks. There's been a walk from Chicago to Washington, D.C., which is 800 miles. We love stages. But then there's another one currently going on in New Jersey right now, hosted by Cosecha as well. And California, from LA to the border, when it came down to like the border, the whole dispute that Trump was having at the border.
The migrant caravan.
Yeah, the migrant caravan. Jersey right now, they're also, the walk is for their licenses campaign. They want to have licenses for all in New Jersey. So yeah, you can like check them out. Go to La Huelga. They have like all the information on like Jersey and other places that they're doing. There's so much work that's going to be done. There's so much more that is coming out of us. Our field teams, we started off with 2-3 field teams. Now we have over 7. We have the largest volunteer organizer network we've seen, which before it was like maybe like what, max 20 people. Now it's like around 33. So we're growing, we're slowly growing. We know it's going to take a while, but yeah, just check out those actions. And because we want to open up the floor, if you have any questions in regards to our principles, tactics, our like how we think our theory of change, how we think we will win, or if any specific action called to you, like you're wondering kind of like how we did it or how it went. Yeah, we're just opening it up for questions.
Yeah, how did you find places to sleep? So you reached out to churches and you had sleeping bags and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And, like if you didn't have anywhere for the night, you just on the side of the road or something? Or?
That's the funny thing. A lot of like, I actually slept in a car, but that was mostly because there wasn't space inside the house that we were in.
Yeah.
But I mean,
We had, yeah, so I was the program coordinator and I worked really closely with the community organizer for the walk. So essentially his role was to find spaces and like connect essentially with the works, other movements to support us. And he would basically contact churches. Churches have been a really like important part of almost like this underground chain of resistance in any movement work. So they basically just opened up their space and like community members from churches would come bring the sleeping bags, like donate stuff for the night, or overall we would already have things that were previously donated by our own community. So yeah, food too. Oh, that was like yeah, there was even one time where the walkers were walking. I wasn't there in that moment, but the walkers were walking and a family. A Latino family came and they pulled over and they asked them, oh, like, what are you guys doing? And they actually went and bought them water and took out like huge packs of water and just gave it to us for the walk. So stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. The first step is reach out to your personal connections, right? Personal relationships, which everyone has personal relationships, especially if you already have been in the immigrant rights movement for a couple of years, and then build on from there. And then you can cold call, or you can find through your personal relationships, find other relationships that actually support you. They're very supportive people, and we believe in the work we are doing. So that's great.
You mentioned the circles that are being established. How many circles are there right now? Are you making progress in terms of sort of expanding your ranks?
I don't know exactly how much, but they are expanding. I can tell you which states they are having and sort of like what they're working on. So the biggest state that we have support in right now is Jersey. I think they have one circle per every major city in New Jersey. I know there's one in Trenton, New Brunswick, Elizabeth, Jersey City, Union City, Perth Amboy. Sorry, I think we're on like 7 or 8 circles are in Jersey. Their main focus is the licenses campaign. We have the San Antonio Circle in Texas, as well as some that like very briefly started up around the border towns. We have some in Massachusetts, as well as in the Midwest. We have during the Dream 7, actually, a family came, and they were from Missouri, I think. Yeah, so they were from Missouri, and they were very inspired. The mom, the dad, they had like 4 other children, and they were like, we're going to start our own circle. So we have Missouri. Do you know any other circles?
Texas.
Yeah,
You mentioned Texas.
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult to keep track of all the circles, especially with the 3 activist role.
Yeah.
Because circles pop out of nowhere, especially when there's a lot of momentum. So specifically, I think one one instance where we did capture somewhat of I guess how many active circles, because of course some of them are not as active, especially when it comes to direct action, right? So we did this whole national campaign around One Day Without Immigrants, which was May 1st, and that's internationally, that's International Workers' Day. And at that moment, I was at Homestead, of course, and we did one day strike, we did a march. So definitely looking at not only the digital stuff, but also people reaching out to us for resources. And we're really open. So if you ask us for support, we'll send you our toolkits, we'll send you our messaging, we'll send you just what we've done in the past, right? And how we can improve and how to contextualize it a little bit around your community, because each community is different, and who knows the community better than you, right? You've been there, I don't know how long, but some people have been there forever. So definitely, last count from that specific one was over 30 circles. And like I said, like over that course of, it's been way over a year. We did this in 2017, the May 1st. So after that, that's when Texas Action, where I was at, happened. The walk happened, Trip 7 happened. So all of that happened, and circles is popping out of other states. So
yeah, we expanded to the West, which is we have a lot of immigrant organizations there. So it's very hard to reach out because everyone's already connected. But people resonated a lot with our messaging, especially with the walk. That they have a San Diego, Los Angeles, and I forgot which one's the other one. But yeah, I know the big ones are San Diego and Los Angeles that are actually active.
We also have a Broward Circle and Homestead Circle that we're part of. Broward, we have meetings 3-4 times a month, basically once a week, where we have a lot of events. So you can find any of us or Hasiel in the back who always attends meetings to come out and join us one day and support us.
So you showed us the slide that had, the sort of the progression, your the sort of theory of change and the 4 stages. And I'm just wondering, is there any kind of timeline attached to that, or does that more depend on what's going on externally in U.S. politics, or does it more depend on what's going on with how fast the movement has grows, or is that sort of can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely.
we go back to this.
We were actually talking about that when I was working on my part of the presentation, because I remember I was watching a training specifically about the 4-phase strategy, and I had mentioned that, we have 1,000 people, 1,000 person activated base, that means we're a third of the way there. And Facilities was like, no, watch out for numbers, because numbers get a little bit complicated to what you mentioned, things like external political factors, like the political climate, etc.
Oh yeah. So at first, because I've been introduced to Cosecha from the very first very small trainings that they would give in 2015. They wanted to put a kind of a timeline to this around 1 to 2 years, where they wanted to go ahead and do this. However, as they went into the field, they kind of saw that that's not the case. Things like this are very complicated because there's a lot of factors that go into it. So to very briefly just answer it is there's really no timeline, solid timeline. It really depends on what political climate we are in, what what mental state is our community in, and just the energy around it. There's definitely spikes where we've definitely seen talks of a boycott rising up to the top. This usually happens when a political action happens. For instance, the caravan, the killings of undocumented immigrants at the borders, that usually spikes it up. But then, especially we saw this in the Dream 7, after the Dream Act wasn't passed, interest on it like dropped completely because again, unfortunately, the shooting in Parkland happened. So then the shift turned into gun control. So it definitely is a battle to kind of have like a timeline attached to it because there's so many things that affected. Also, our communities, like we said, we don't command. So in this way, we will never command our community to like, you need to boycott because we want you to. If our community feels that that's not the solution at the moment, then we cannot force them to do something that they want. So right now, there's no really any timeline. However, it is growing steadily. By the number of circles, more and more people are going into it. Unfortunately, in the immigrant rights movement, this kind of theory of change is a little radical. They believe it's a little radical, even though they don't know that in 2006 they had these mega marches that happened. It has happened before. It happened with Cesar Chavez during the boycotting of the grapes back in the 60s. It has happened before, but there's just, we also have this constant battle with fear that our community has, respectability politics, and just like having ICE around, having this administration that constantly like is putting up these policies. It really is affecting our people's mental state to the point where they go into this learned helplessness. There's really nothing we can do, but slowly we can change people's minds. So
I mean, having a sustained 7-day national strike is a big feat, and it hasn't been done for at least for the last decades, right? People have tried to do the same, national actions, but definitely we want to acknowledge that this is something that we haven't done at least, or no one in Cosecha has ever done. So we're learning, and I think we have learned that one, we can, like of course, we can control, how the people react, how the people want to engage, but we definitely want to bring the learnings from the past. We want to really see how the metrics maybe have shifted, maybe may have not shifted, but definitely be prepared. So it's going to take time and a lot of patience and a lot of hard work to not only talk about Cosecha, but really train people in what our strategy and our principles are, because that's essential to really sustain this. Because I believe that we're going to get to the strike and to protect the movement from like any outside source or just external forces. We really need to understand what we're doing in terms of our principles, and just having that in mind. So we don't. I think. Well, I remember one big lesson in Summer 6 is Democrats came along and said, today we march, tomorrow we vote. So definitely that was a big learning. It's in our principles. So next time around, we're definitely focusing about and looking at the power dynamic, right? We have the power. So once we realize we have the power, it's definitely easier to be together and do this.
And people usually fall in. I've seen situations where they fall in line with our theory of change. After Dream 7, when the Democrats kind of caved in, people completely flocked into our principle of like, we don't trust the politicians right now. It's all about people power. After Cosecha did the action in Texas, that kind of like other orders were like, if they did it, might as well let's do it now. So like, there's definitely learnings there. And it sometimes actually happens naturally. Who remembers last year, February 16, something big happened. It even made international news because people were just so angry that it happened. So what happened, actually on February 12th, I got a text message from my sister sending me a graphic saying, don't go to work on the 16th of February. So I was like, do you know who sent it to you? She's like, no, someone just sent it to me. so I'm sending it to you. And this was during, I forgot what was the political climate around that time. I think it was freshly because Trump got inaugurated, and also he was doing a lot of the travel ban, so a lot of people were getting rounded up. So this graphic started circling. I contacted Cosecha, and Cosecha didn't know about it. They were like, someone in the community might have started it. But it caught on like wildfire. People resonated with it. And in Homestead, over like 2,000 people marched and didn't go to work. People were getting mad. They're like, oh, how come you didn't come to work? Like, my children don't have daycare centers now, and like I have to deal with them, and like my favorite restaurant was closed, and they didn't get like that's the point. Like, if we don't work, all your luxuries, all your services are dead. So it happens naturally too. We have to also understand that there's natural peaks that people will flock to this. And we believe that if we have enough support and then enough people start learning about that, that natural peak will be enough to go over to the massive strike. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for the organizing work that you're doing, and particularly like kind of articulating this sort of like outside strategy that demands permanent protection, because that's something that we definitely struggle with in DSA. Always like these kind of incremental, like it's tough for us because we believe in no borders, and we believe that like everyone, citizenship for all, like that they're. So it's always tough for us to like. We definitely go out and support like calls to renew like TPS and for DACA, but like. We want something more than that, and I just wanted to ask for the people in the room and also for the people like watching online. You mentioned becoming like a sustainer, and what's the best way for us to do that?
Yeah, so if you go to lahuelga.com, I'm sure there's an option there that says become a monthly sustainer. Yeah, he can actually show you right now. Monthly sustainers, we are very open about our finances. We believe that transparency is great. So we always like show where people are going to happen. So yeah, if you go to lahuelga.com, you go to donate.
You wait a little.
Yeah, you wait a little. You become a monthly sustainer. So a lot of our monthly sustainers are only just like $5 a month. I was a monthly sustainer until like I actually joined. But you can also do 10, 25. We always ask, like, make sure that it's okay with like what your situation is in. And I mean, if $10, if you're rich enough that $10 is like $2, go ahead. But we don't want to like pressure people like $10 if that's like rent money. Like we got it. We've been there. Like we don't have a salary. We're volunteer organizers, but we get $50 a week to do this work full time. And that's really about it. There's nothing else. We don't get like massive paychecks, stuff like that. And all this is coming from that. All this allows us to do this full time, to do things like the walk, jail strikes, this to happen. So yeah. If you want, you can go lahuelga.com and then you go to donate, and you go right there. And then I think every month or so we update them on what we've been. We like our donors a lot. We like to message them, like email them, like listen, like this is where your $5 went to. We message them like, oh, your $5 are like keeping me away from being detained during jail. Because ICE did ask about us while we were in the jail strikes, but luckily nothing bad happened. Questions?
So I wanted to ask I know y'all like have a lot of inspiration from like workers' movements and like strikes that we had like in our history. However, like a lot of strikes, if a union organizes a strike, like it's very like it's an organized workplace, so like the whole workplace shuts down, and it's like it can be successful because of that, because it's like in one place. But like being like a general strike or the whole 11 million, like how do you make that? How do you sell that to people who might be like, well, like I could lose my job if I strike because now my whole workplace is just me, or like me and like someone with me, a coworker who's striking for the general strike, not the whole workplace? How do you sell that to people? Yeah.
Definitely, I think out of the three of us, I've been here the longest in terms of full-time volunteer organizer. And definitely each community is different, right? I've been to a lot of communities. The most recent one is El Paso, and that's a border community. So I've gotten the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. And that's a totally different context because being undocumented in a border community, there's no way out. There's checkpoints in every exit. And because I have that privilege of going in and out, so definitely, I think at the root of it is just connecting with people. So that's the first step, right? And definitely, our strategy is really, I think the word that Juan Carlos uses, radical, is like really, it puts people in a position where, we're not forcing you to take it for sure, especially if you're directly affected, you're undocumented, and you run this big risk, right? And we just honor the sacrifices that our volunteer organizers have made, right? Like my sister, she has been there longer than I have. She didn't go to college. She went straight from high school to organizing this because she believes it. We see the urgency, and of course, undocumented people, our parents, we come from a farm worker family, isn't getting the respect and dignity that they deserve, and we've been here like over a decade and a half. So definitely, I think after you connect with people, people see your story, resonate with it, and we're not going to get everyone. Like the goal isn't to get everyone because that's really draining, but definitely, I think little by little, what I call the first believers jump on board first because they're ready and they feel it. And the mindset has to do with it a lot, and just being in that space, right? And then later on, after maybe 3, 5, 10 actions, then you're ready to jump on, right? Then you see the network has grown, the support is bigger. Cosecha has been like for a little bit over 2 years, full force, towards doing direct action, building a lot of support in stage 1. And just really being visible and honoring the sacrifices and just respecting the people, the immigrant people, right? So definitely, I think over this last year at least, I've seen a lot of people jump on board. I've seen a lot of people say no, not yet. But that doesn't mean they're not totally engaged. They're engaged in their own way locally. They even donated. Juan Carlos mentioned he donated. So it's definitely different ways to become part of this. There's a big spectrum from just donating to actually getting arrested to actually becoming a full-time volunteer organizer with Cosecha. So I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, like one harvest, different fruits is one of our principles. So some people can strike. If you work at a packing house and everyone there's down to strike, and you strike for a week, that packing house is going to be like, But I mean, if you're the only one that's going to strike and you're obviously going to lose your job, we understand. Like we said, we're not going to command you. But there's other ways you can help. Some folks, one way that they can help, but they can't necessarily strike, is donating some money to a local garden or starting a local garden. So those people who are striking don't have money to buy food, you can feed them. And it goes into like people. I can't strike, but I'll give you my house.
Yeah.
And that's what we call like alternative institutions and reciprocity. So what will happen if I get kicked out? What's going to happen if I don't have food? We as Cosecha know that those are answers we need to answer and have it solidified, because we don't want to like lead our people into a burning fire. We want to lead them into success.
I know, like, I definitely have that conversation with my mother. I come from a working class, like, mixed status family. She has a residency, I have my citizenship, my grandmother's undocumented. And, like, all three of us have engaged in this conversation so many times. She's like, if I don't show up to work for a week, they're gonna fire me. She's a registered nurse. She's like, that's the reality. Like, I can't do that. Like, I have to like feed you guys. And you know, me being a citizen and me being a student, like I know I have that ability to strike. And I'm like, well, we can always engage, like what Kwanzaa was saying, in different forms of like alternative institutions. Like you're a nurse, like show up for a day or two, like call in for some sick days if you can, and go out there like when we're like marching and when we're gathering, and like provide what you know, and like what you as a migrant, what you as like, a woman, like brown migrant can provide to our community. And a lot of the time in Cosecha we've had just like really like deep like conversations about it, and I know one of my favorite conversations that we've had as a group, as a bond, has definitely been like, oh, like close your eyes and see, like imagine, like envision yourself like in the strike. You have 7-day strike, like there's people who can't necessarily not go to work for 7 days, but they're there, like the paleteros there, like the eloteros there, like there's different community members like out there just like serving for the interests of our community, and that also engages back into like almost like anti-capitalist like work. Like we're literally tapping into these resources. Like the 7-day strike goes beyond us not attending work or us picking outside of work or not going to school. It's literally us like not depending on the same institutions, the same corporations that are oppressing us. Like we're tapping into that. So it's all like this interconnected web of a strike that goes beyond like our physical bodies not attending or not being, you know, outside of somewhere.
And so are there moves to, I guess, establish these like alternative institutions, you know, as far as before the strike and as you guys are building the movement and for example, like your mother as a nurse, you know, working as, you know, helping at like a community clinic or something like that within the community itself?
Yeah, we've definitely, so every like season that we've had, we kind of do, or not kind of, we have a retreat, and it's our bond retreat. So every single individual who's a full-time bond or volunteer organizer goes to some donated space, and we have a talk about what campaign we're going to be working on for that season. And there's been talks about having like going off like what the BPP did, like the Black Panther Party did, and have like alternative like what we were saying, like community clinics and like breakfast programs. And in and of ourselves, like we were living together at one point at a donated space, and rather than going to like Publix or Walmart, we would just go to like our community, like they're from Homestead, so they're both from Homestead. So they would get like fruits and vegetables from up in Homestead, or we would go to like the bodega and get our groceries there. So like small steps like that, small incremental steps that can lead out to larger plans. I know in Texas, they're actually working on a community garden out in the backyard. They have a really nice space. So like shit, like rather than buy groceries, Boston too, I didn't know that. Like we can have this not only for ourselves, but like gradually learn how we can improve on this as like internally and then externally, like giving that back to our community. So there's definitely been talks. I don't know if you have any concrete ones right now.
Right now, it's really just Boston. They're doing the Easty Farm, where they show people how to grow their own crops, but not just like flowers, but actual crops that will like give fruit or vegetables. So that's like one of the ways that they're helping. Also, I know sometimes they have like they always ask people to buy from local immigrants. A lot of the food we get pupusas, which are these Salvadorian dishes. A lot of people might think they're expensive, but actually, instead, like we tell people, instead of hitting up McDonald's dollar menu, hit up the pupuseria, because their pupusas are $1 as well, and they're this big.
Yeah.
And with 3, you eat good.
Like I'm from Lauderhill, and we have a really big Caribbean like mixed community there. So like mad Haitians, mad Jamaicans, and like shit's like we're like eating wings, like Jamaican patties. We're like, nah, like why are we gonna eat trash like McDonald's or something? So it's like these small, like I said, like incremental steps to eventually gathering like something like Boston here. Like I think we would all love to have that in Homestead, which was definitely a conversation that we've had before.
So that's it for our time. Thank you so much. Check out our website. They have so much more information. Or send us a message and you're like, hey, like you said you had a toolkit about this, and we said we're open. As long as you're willing to accept our principles, you can share our knowledge.
Thank you so much.